What's going on, guys? Today is August 13th, Thursday, 2020. I've got another housing market update for you guys. And at the end of the video, I'm going to share with you guys 3 things on what I believe everybody should be doing right now. Let's get to it. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Daniel. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Now, before we go ahead and begin this video, I want to mention Citadel. Now, Citadel is not a sponsored group. There's no financial gain by promoting this. However, the gain is all nonprofit. My really good friend Andy has recently started an organization called Citadel. And the whole premise of Citadel is that they're taking young entrepreneurs, business leaders, guys who own businesses, organizations, you name it, all over the world. And the idea is to literally solve the world's biggest problems. And guys, they're getting started this year and they're trying to raise $60,000. So we're happy to announce here at the Kwok Brothers that anything up to $10,000, we are actually going to match the funds for this group to get started and do some really, really cool stuff. So I personally, with my very own eyes, have seen these leaders from Africa, Thailand, Asia, Middle East, South America, all over the globe that my friend Andy is connected with. And they all have passions about helping solve the world's biggest problems. And of course, guys, based on what's happening in 2020, we need it. So if you guys want to donate and help out and contribute, again, this is not a sponsorship, guys, but it's something I genuinely believe in, and it's something that I'm passionate about. So the link is going to be in the description for you guys to financially contribute and also learn more about what they've got going on. So again, guys, the organization is called Citadel, and we are at the Kwok Brothers organization are going to be matching up to $10,000 in terms of donations to get this thing started. So thank you, guys. All right, so let's go to the market update because I got a lot on my plate to share with you guys. And per usual, I'm gonna start with the single family house market, work my way up to commercial. I'm gonna share my overall thoughts. And at the end of the video, I'm gonna give you guys 3 things that I believe everybody should be doing right now. All right, so let's first start with the single family market. So there has supposedly been a 950% increase in terms of Google searches for process of buying a home, right? So for a lot of you SEO guys out there, you're gonna appreciate this, but 950% increase the last month, the last 30 days actually, to be more specific, on Google searches, specifically titled process of buying a home. Well, coincidentally, multiple markets, based on conversations that I've been having with realtors, brokers, property managers, inspectors, mortgage brokers, you name it, around the country, is that it is a hot market. We definitely have a very much of a seller's market here currently in the United States of America. I'm going to share more on that in the overall thoughts. However, some markets such as Cincinnati are actually showing houses being gone within hours and not days. It seems every broker that I've talked to in getting ready and getting the research for this video, I've been saying, man, the market's hot right now. There's a lot of buyers. The inventory is extremely low. Now, obviously, we can say that mortgage rates have a lot to do with it. Financing is very cheap, but on the other hand of the spectrum, right, ATTOM Data Solutions Group says that the foreclosures are actually on the rise and they are not expected to stop. Matter of fact, currently, there's about 145,000 current foreclosures, right? Now, projections say that 336,000 by early 2021. The ceiling, which is the worst case scenario, being over 500,000 foreclosures and filing. Now, guys, 2008 showed worse numbers, right? I know you guys are probably watching this and thinking, well, Daniel, 2008 was much worse. Total, there was 3.1 million foreclosures in 2008. Well, guys, we're only looking at a small window here, right? In my opinion, right, as many news outlets have said, we're already in the recession, but we haven't seen the worst of it yet. Just in my opinion, guys, based on the research that I'm seeing, my personal experience, the people I'm talking to, the worst is still yet to come. That 336,000 number is only a projection until early next year, right? It's going to continue to catapult as much as these forbearances wear off, right? Our good friend Dave Seymour, who you guys saw in last week's market update video, did a very good job articulating that. Whoa, a wild samurai has appeared. I'm just kidding. I'm Korean. Historically speaking, they didn't really like each other. But anyways, hey guys, don't forget to like and subscribe this video or I will come to your house with this sword to cook you steak like those hibachi chefs. Now let's move on to commercial. Now, here's what I found really interesting. New York Hospitality report shows that 83% of restaurants and bars could not pay full rent. Matter of fact, 37% didn't pay rent at all. Now, obviously, guys, this isn't happening all across the country, right? It's New York, the population density is much higher, therefore the risk of the pandemic is significantly greater. However, if you're looking at 83% in New York, even if it's 50, 60% across the country, even if it's 40%, even if it's 30% in terms of retailers, restaurants, bars not being able to pay full rent, that's still really bad news, guys, considering how much of the economy, right? Because at the end of the day, I am sure we can all agree, the economy is one big chain reaction. We saw that in 2008 with the residential mortgage industry toppling a lot of other industries. It started a domino effect, right? But we're seeing, even if it's at 30, 40% in terms of restaurants, bars, retailers across the country, that's still really bad news, guys. Matter of fact, the Simon Property Group, which is one of the biggest real estate companies when it comes to commercial real estate, say that they only collected 73% from retailers. Now, let's think about this for a second, right? I own apartments, I own commercial real estate. I know for a fact that about 50% of my gross income typically are going to be expenses. If you look at the national average for all multifamily buildings, on average between Class A all the way to Class D apartment complexes, the average expense ratio for all 50 states, you're looking at around 46, 47%. So 50%, it's not that much off the mark. So I know that out of my gross income, 50% is going to be my expenses. For the most part, for most people, right? 33% is going to go towards your debt service, towards your mortgage. That's also the national average, right? We have that rule of 33 that everybody likes to follow, right? 33% is expenses, which by the way, 9 times out of 10 cases, that's not accurate. 33% is debt service, right? Which is, yeah, it's pretty fair. And then the 33% you're told to, that's your cash flow. You're supposed to live off that. So between the actual expenses and also the debt service, you're looking at 83%. And now if you're only collecting 73%, you're negative 10% month to month, which kind of makes sense. That's probably why, right, a lot of individuals, a lot of retailers, a lot of owners are not able to pay full rent, let alone rent at all. And that's not even mentioning a lot of the investors that these guys have to take care of, right? They have dividends and returns that they have to distribute every single year for their company to stay alive and for them to still have investors wanting to play. Here's another aspect. Evictions expected to climb moving forward from August. Obviously, guys, the moratorium ended July 24th. And now that's the big question, right? The big question is, man, what are eviction numbers going to look like? I've been reading a lot of different articles, whether it's in the state of California, whether it's in my home state of Illinois or New York. A lot of tensions are beginning to rise amongst tenants and landlords. I read a story, I actually included the story in my First Deal Experience podcast, which you guys, if you haven't checked that out yet, First Deal Experience, I bring on a lot of successful landlords and real estate investors, and I have them tell the story of their first deal. The link is in the description below. But I did this in my weekly update that I do every single week for the First Deal Experience. And there's a story where, a landlord literally had to evict a tenant, and the tenant ended up bringing 30 other tenants that were his or her friends, and they ended up doing a protest in front of the unit, and they actually hired a contractor because the landlord had to switch the lock, and they actually ended up hiring a contractor to remove that lock, go in and pretty much just hang out in the form of a protest. And they, blocked the streets for the moving truck so they couldn't come in and take the stuff. I mean, it was ridiculous. And the landlord ended up just having to do nothing. His hands were tied. So I'm seeing a lot of these stories starting to be published, a lot of these stories starting to come out. Okay, so now let's move on to my overall thoughts, right? My overall thoughts is that right now we are in what's known as a total seller's market. Now, my good friend, Mr. Chris Wilson, calls it a total seller's market, which is different than just a regular seller's market. So let me explain. An even market is when you have one buyer for every house, or it's at least close to that. A traditional seller's market is when you have 1.2 buyers for every one single family house. A total seller's market is when you have 3 buyers for every one single family house. And that's exactly what's happening right now. The seller right now has all the control in the world. They really do. If you look at your real estate all across the board, the stories that I'm hearing, today we are in a total seller's market. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that you should buy real estate right now? Listen, I'm not saying that you can't do deals currently. So a lot of you guys watching this video that currently have a real estate transaction going on, the more power to you. However, what I am saying is that right now is at a time where inventory is low, and because the supply and demand curve is the way it is, a lot of these single family homes, and in some ways even with apartment complexes, are being extremely overvalued, right? Obviously, our good friend Mr. Dave Seymour said it beautifully that the economy right now is being propped up by Mickey Mouse money. Right? And that's very true. I would 100% agree with that. Now, let me tell you my overall thoughts on the economy, right? What do I think is going to happen? And I'm going to do it in the form of 3 letters. CLO. Now, if you're watching this video, chances are you watch a lot of different videos on finances, and chances are you probably saw the movie The Big Short, right? If you saw the movie The Big Short, you know that one of the main reasons and one of the main vehicles that collapsed the entire economy in 2008 was the CDO, which is the collateralized debt obligation. Now we have what's known as the CLO, the collateralized loan obligation. They just changed the name. Now, the CLO has been around for a very, very long time, right? If you guys literally YouTube search CLO, you'll probably get, videos that are 5 years old, 3 years old, and probably even some 10 years old, right? It's been around for a very, very long time. But the fact of the matter is the concept of the CLO or the CDO remains to be the same, right? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the reason why I say it is because a lot of these businesses, let's be real, let's be frank, as unfortunate as it is, have suffered greatly due to what's happened the last 4 or 5 months due to the pandemic. Well, we've already known that even before this pandemic happened, that corporate bonds were at a very, very vulnerable place. Now, what happens when corporate bonds begin to fail due to shutdown of businesses, due to COVID and stimulus wearing off? Well, that triggers even more substantial downfall of commercial real estate. Well, that triggers even more of a downfall in the commercial real estate market, right? A lot of these retailers that aren't able to pay rent, you have more people working from home. Now, that also triggers investment vehicles that banks will invest into, such as MBS, bonds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And well, eventually it leads to tightening in terms of financing and causing credit or debt crises, or worst case scenario, or both. And that's when we kind of have a repeat of 2008. Now, guys, I'm not saying that I know all the answers, right? A lot of this potentially is speculation. And truth be told, we don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of volatility happening in the market. And I, along with a lot of different experts, don't have the answer. And guys, if you come across somebody who thinks they know all of what's going to happen and what's going to happen in the next 12 months, and these are the steps, et cetera, right? Run. At the end of the day, I'm just giving you guys what I believe happened historically and what I believe is going to happen based on the information that I know, right? So comment down below if you have any other thoughts on what's happening. Okay, last but not least, what are the 3 things that I believe that everybody should be doing? Well, this is a compilation of a lot of different advices that I've heard from reading books, from mentors who have been through decades of investing in real estate and have done well enough to survive each negative hit that the economy has taken. These are the top 3 things. Number 1 is pay off debt and decrease your liabilities. Now, obviously here at the Kwok Brothers, we have a lot of videos on how you guys can pay off not only your mortgage, but a lot of forms of amortized debt, which, by the way, guys, if you're looking at your overall financial health, the amortized debt is a lot of times what hurts people the most. A lot of videos and resources that we have here at the Kwok Brothers YouTube channel that could be made accessible to you guys, which leads me to number 2, is make your money accessible and be liquid, right? I think a lot of individuals don't pay enough attention to a lot of these big companies that right now, let's be real, have astronomical amounts in cash reserves. And I think that we should kind of follow the turn, right? If they have tens of millions of dollars invested into their R&D departments, why not just piggyback off the research that they're doing? And number 3, which is the most important, is to get smarter, right? A lot of people, I think, are just way too quick and to jump into deals right now. They're not calculating numbers properly. I think too many people are still buying off appreciation. And my rule of thumb is if it's not cash flowing in 30 days, I wouldn't get it at all, right? And of course, nobody wants to do that, right? We all want to do deals now, and that's just human nature. And ultimately, why a lot of people lose their shirt. It happened 12 years ago, and before that, it happened 8 years ago, and before that, it happened 10 years ago. I mean, it happened over and over again. It's just human nature. So the motto, I guess, for point number 3, get smarter. Don't focus on putting the money to work, focus on putting yourself to work. Now, of course, guys, we have a lot of free resources. I wrote a book that's 292 pages on real estate investing content, how you can buy properties without using a bank. It's actually, I have it right here. And in my opinion, buying properties, owner financing, buying properties agreement for deed without needing a bank is one of the best ways to acquire rental properties, especially in these times right now where the banks look to be very volatile in terms of what's happening with the economy. So again, guys, the link is in the description below for you to get this free book, 0 to 75units.com. It's completely free. All you gotta do is pay for shipping. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next video.